Lindsay.
If we were very gracious and approved all, we're going to send it back to the city to approve all.
I think we're going to get started. Thank you all for attending. I don't think Tobias needs much of an introduction, so I'm not going to waste your time with that. But now's an opportunity for Tobias to talk to us about the city sales tax and to ask all the questions you want to know. So thank you for being here. Tobias, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. And again, my name is Tobias Templewire. I know many of you in the room, and I'll try to answer some questions about the sales tax, kind of give you a background information of where we're at, why the city council kind of chose the option they looked at, what other alternatives were explored, and then answer any questions that you have. So I think it's important to first off and kind of frame what the problem was. What is the problem that's facing the city, and more importantly, the street department. Our electric department, our water department, those departments can sell you something, water, electricity, whatever it is, and generate a rate, generate income. So those are easier ones to fund. Public properties, police, fire, again, they're funded by property taxes. That's where they get their money from. We do the budget every year. Street department's kind of unusual. They kind of act like the electric department, whereas they've got things to go out and take care of and grow, but they kind of get the revenue from things like taxes, and so they're kind of an odd one in between the two. And really what the problem has been is that revenues for the street department have not kept up with the expenses. And the easiest way to show this is that in fiscal year 2001, revenue for the street department was $2.4 million. This fiscal year, our budgeted revenues are $2 million. So those numbers have not been adjusted for inflation. So in other words, to put this, high school seniors today, when they would have been preschools, we got $2.2 million. Today when they graduate, we get $2 million. I don't know about you, but during that time, things have gotten a little more expensive. I'm assuming in your businesses they have. Is moving around causing you a problem?
You're fine.
All right. So that's the issue that the city's had to deal with when it comes to the street department. Another issue that came up was, many of you may have heard of STP funds. STP funds are funds that the federal government gave to the state then gave them to the cities. And we use those to do street projects. And that system worked great for decades. 2007, 2008, what happened was Department of Roads got crossways with the Federal Highway Commission. And Federal Highway said, you're not having the cities do federal projects when they get federal money, and the state said, no, we give them the money to go do their project. Federal Highway says, no, you will now make those all federal projects. Making a street a federal project adds about 3 to 4 years to its construction time. It increases the cost usually at least 50%, if not 100%. Because now we have to do things like environmental reviews. Before, you had a street that today was concrete, we wanted to tear the concrete out, we would put new concrete back in, we could do that in a year, we could do it for $100,000 and we were done. Because of federal project, it's now going to take us 4 years to do it. And that cost is now probably going to be close to $350,000 to $400,000. Part of that environmental review, we have to go out and check to make sure there are no wetlands that are going to be disturbed. We have to make sure the contractor won't park on wetlands while he's working on the project. We have to make sure there's no barn swallows that might be disturbed during nesting season. We have to make sure there's no tiger beetles. I mean, there's a number of things that we have to go through. Perfect example of a federal project is 2nd Street today. The 2nd Street project, Court to Ella. We applied for that grant in 2009. It's now 2014. We have yet to begin construction phase, and we probably won't do it until 2015. We just got environmental clearance. It took 2 years. On a road that's been there for 100 and some years. So in 2008, that money stopped coming to the city. So the state then came up and they said, all right, what we're going to do now is the state will start giving state dollars to cities. But we can't start that until everybody's kind of even. Because in the past, if Beatrice had a project that was a little big one year, we got extra money. Next year we didn't get money. Bellevue got money. And so they kind of wanted to make everybody kind of even. So they gave us about 5 years to try to even everybody out. In addition, it takes about 5 years to get a federal project through. So in the last 5 years, the first class cities have been trying to get together and even everybody out. And that's kind of, we're in tail end of that process. If the state fulfills what they've said, and if we continue to get money from them, we'll start in 2016, 2017. We'll get 80 cents on the dollar. We take a haircut in the amount of money we get, but we don't have to do the federal guidelines. So it's a win-win. So that's kind of the backdrop of what the issue is that's facing the street department. Now, the next question I usually hear is, where does the revenue come from? Revenue from the street department comes from really three sources. The first and the largest one is highway allocation taxes, gas taxes. That's where a large majority of revenue goes for the street department. The only issue there is the national trend is that we drive vehicles that get better gas mileage and we drive fewer miles, which in return correlates to less gas tax dollars to be passed around to everybody else. Another issue is gas tax dollars, one of the factors in the formula has to do with lane miles. Towns that are growing add lane miles. Towns that are not, don't. So as Lincoln grows, as Omaha grows, Elkhorn, even those other towns, as they grow and add lane miles, the pie's not getting any bigger. Their share is, our share doesn't. So that's another issue that we have out there. The next source of revenue that we get is back when the voters passed the first sales tax here in Beatrice, it stated that 30% of the first 1% of sales tax went to the street department. The remaining 70% went to property tax relief. So we get 30% of the first 1% of your sales tax. That's what the street department gets today. The third source is we have a state contract with the Department of Roads to maintain the two highways that run through town. We get a little under $50,000 a year. I will tell you, we spend more than $50,000 a year on maintaining those two highways, but that's the amount that we get from the state. So that's where the revenue comes from. So since revenues haven't kept up with expenses, what impact has that had on our street department? And as any of you do in your personal life and in your business, if revenues aren't keeping up with expenses, what do? You cut expenses. And that's what the street department has done. We have done this by putting off projects. We've been putting off capital projects, we've been putting off street projects. And the best way to show this is that every year the city has to prepare a 1 to 6 year road plan. And what it is a list of streets that we plan on working on in years 1, year 2, year 3, out to year 6. Every year we prepare one, we submit it to the state. It's kind of supposed to be your blueprint of what you plan on doing. And if you go and look, we've had some projects that have been on there since 2000. Example, Hoyt Street, 21st Street to the city limits. So Hoyt Street, we're out by Hannibal Park. We're going from the end of the city, from 21st Street there out to the end of city limits, which would be about where BSAC starts. That has been on our 1 and 6 year road plan every year since 2000. We've never completed it. We never touched it. We never started it. Why? Because funding's never been there. Another one is Codwell, 9th to 11th. Codwell is the dirt road, gravel road that is down by the recycling center. Okay? It has been on our 1 or 6 year road plan every year, except for 2, since 2000. Again, we haven't done anything to it because we never have funds to get to it. Putting those projects off hasn't helped the price of them either.
It's not, I mean,
no, it's not.
You cut expenses, you really didn't cut expenses. You just pushed them off, they got more expensive and now it costs more. Cutting expenses means cutting personnel or overhead. That's what we do with our businesses when we cut expenses. We don't put them off.
I'll get to those
we
two.
Cut expenses.
But those are things we have to do is keep those roads up. Yeah, you're correct. And 2000, Hoyt Street was a $500,000 project. Today we have it estimated at $1 million. Codwell Street in 2000 was 175,000. Today it's 325,000. You didn't have the money in 2000 to do it, you pushed it off. You did the same thing with equipment. We don't buy new equipment, we maintain what we've got and we just make it work. When you're willing to look at equipment, we've got a patrol 421, I think, or 427. We were scheduled to replace it in 2012. It's now scheduled to be replaced in 2016. We push it off, we maintain what we've got. The other day, I think there's a patrol the other day that had a radiator go bad on it during plowing, and it's the one that plows the downtown. So we can't do without it. You get it fixed and you make it work. The projects that we're proposing, if this ballot issue is to go forward, the projects that we're proposing are here on this map, and I'll pass the maps around so you can look at them. I think I've got enough for everyone, hopefully. All the projects on this map are projects that have been on the 1 and 6 year road plan at some point since the year 2000.
So am I correct in understanding that Alma, Nebraska is the only other town in the state of Nebraska that will have this extra 0.5% that has it at this point?
No, Waterloo and Sydney also have it.
So that, my question being, how is Beatrice unique to all the other cities that aren't proposing this?
I can't say Nebraska Beatrice is unique. I think we're unique in the fact that we're looking to address the problem. I think others either simply are not addressing the issue or have used some other alternatives to address it, and we'll get into those alternatives as to what the city council looked at and which ones were out there. What question was asked is, why don't we cut? What can we cut? This year, we're budgeted to spend $2.5 million in the street department. 1.3, that half of that is for capital projects. Half of that, so 1/4% of the entire budget, is the Highway 77 project from Dempster south out of town. We had absolutely no say in that project. This is the Department of Roads project. They picked it got done, they picked when it got done, they picked how it got done, they picked who does it, they picked how it got bid. They show up and say, here's a memo, this is how much you owe us. Initially, they told us it'd be a $200,000 project, and that's what we budgeted for. And then we were about 2 weeks out from getting the budget finalized by City Council, and it was now $645,000. And so you went through and redid the budget and scrapped everything else. But that's one project. Personnel, we have 9 people in the street department. 9 people are the ones who are out plowing your snow today. They're the ones out salt and sanding. They're the ones who maintain all your streets. There's 9 of them. It's 32.5% of the budget. I'll bet on most of your businesses, 70% is probably where your personnel comes in at. That's pretty typical. It's 32.5. So I know the next question. What do you spend your money on? If 32.5% is people, where's the money go? $65,000 in gas and oil. Okay? I looked at converting the fleet to natural gas. Is that a way we could save money? It's not feasible at this point. I could do it, I can't get the gasoline station here. That was the problem. Ice control, $30,000 in ice control. I could spend less, I don't think you want me to, but we can. $44,000 in traffic control. Things that we need for different various traffic control. Not a place we can really skimp a whole lot there. $88,000 on road improvement materials that we do in-house.
What's the cost of your 9 personnel total with benefits and the insurance and everything?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I guess I could do the math backwards and come up with a fairly close number. I'd say 600,000 ballpark.
600,000 for 9 employees,
Be my ballpark number.
so it's roughly 80,000 an employee.
Yeah.
I understand the insurance is paid for their families and their kids and
Correct.
everybody 100%.
Correct.
I don't think there's a business in town that does that.
I understand.
Okay.
We also have, you have to remember, we have unions.
Yeah.
And it's a union contract. The union contract is up this year. It will be a negotiated item during the union contract.
We have, I can tell you, the sales tax issue is a long way to go. The internet is exploding for everybody, Walmart, the clothing stores, us electronics retailers. We, 2-3 times a week, we get somebody that comes in, can you match this on this $1,000 flat screen? And sure, it's no problem. Then we know the next question is going to be, what about the sales tax? Are you going to charge a sales tax? Of course we are. We don't want to go to jail. Well, they're not. And we've heard for 8 years that they're going to they're going to start charging the internet merchants sales tax. They haven't done it. They're not doing it yet. You've got a huge, we're going to start losing sales because of the internet, and then you're going to raise another 0.5%, which is going to encourage them more to go on the internet or Lincoln.
Okay, well, let's look at the different ideas that were tossed out to the council. Okay, we talked about what the problem is. I pitched 7 ideas to them back in November. First one was to do nothing. Let's just do nothing. Let's continue business as usual, and we'll continue to limp by. All right, our streets will become Lincoln streets, but they'll still be drivable. We'll still survive. We can move forward. All right, they didn't like that idea. I said, what if we just wait for state funding? It's supposed to start coming in 2016, 2017. It'll be in the tune of about $300,000. What if we just wait till then? If you can tell me for sure that state funding is going to come in 2016 or 2017, but nobody seemed real interested in relying on that to come through and waiting until that came. The next option was a wheel tax. All right, we have the ability to impose a wheel tax. Lincoln, Omaha have one. I think they're the only 2 that have one in the state. I looked, there are 14,888 vehicles licensed in Beatrice. In order to generate the same amount of revenue that the sales tax would generate, a wheel tax is $44 per vehicle. Okay. One downside the council didn't like was it only impacts those people who register their vehicles in Beatrice. So if you live out in the county, you don't pay it. If you're able to register your vehicle in Wymore, you wouldn't pay it. Would it create an incentive for you to find a way to register your vehicle in Wymore in order not to pay it? I mean, that was some discussion that was had on that one. The other issue was, do you charge everybody the same amount, or do you come up with some way based upon the type of vehicle? Does an 18-wheel vehicle or a loaded cement mixer coming out of the plant have the same wheel tax as my little sedan does? Lincoln has 3 pages of different breakdowns of vehicle types and who pays how much. You can get into that. Council didn't like the wheel tax idea, so they didn't forward that one on. Property tax. Property tax is an issue. We could raise property taxes and we could fund the street department with property tax. Okay? In order to generate the same amount of revenue, it would be 11.5-cent increase on your tax levy. The city levy is 32 cents today. In total levy, it would be a 5.6% increase in your total levy. So I did some numbers. I looked in the Census Bureau. 62.8% of people in Beatrice own their own home. Of those people who own their own home, the average median value, so the median value is $96,800. Increasing the property tax 11.5 cents would increase their property taxes by $111.32. Okay? If you have a $70,000 home, it's an $80 increase. If you have a $150,000 home, it's $172. Stan, for your mall, you know what it is? It's $4,146.34.
See, that's too high already.
So,
Selecting.
so it's-
We've been meaning to talk to you guys.
you gotta talk to the county assessor or county treasurer. I have nothing to do with those two.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that that's even more, if they didn't like the fact that a wheel tax only that register their cars in the city, I would say that the property tax is even more so skewed.
Right, it stops at the city limit lines.
Well, yeah, and not only that, only the people that own property. If
Correct.
You can rent in town, drive all over, don't pay a dime more.
Yeah, but renters also pay that property tax, it's in their rent.
Well, that's true, that's true.
It is.
It gets passed on to the, this is true.
You know, if I did a property tax, not only would I have retailers in yelling at me, I'd have landlords in yelling at me, right? And at least this way I only have one group yelling at me.
You know, the whole problem is we don't have enough people.
I don't disagree
We
with
grow
you.
the town is what we do, and raising sales tax is gonna be a detriment to the people coming in. They're gonna live outside of town. Warren Ryan.
Well, the sales tax, I think, is the one option that you can try to capture people, at least as they do business in town. Not necessarily does everybody have to live in town. If you have a ball tournament in town, or if you have whatever event's going on, everybody pays a little bit. The half-cent sales tax, as it's proposed, would be, again, the median household income is $38,931 in Beatrice. Now, if you've done your federal tax return yet this year, you know that you can deduct the income tax, or the sales tax that you pay. You can deduct that on your Schedule A. So if you go to the IRS website, irs.gov, and you type in sales tax calculator, they have a cool little calculator. You put in an income level, a number of exemptions, and it'll spit out how much you will pay, what they estimate in sales tax in a year. When I put our numbers in there for Beatrice, and I put in somebody who made the median household $38,931, putting that number in. And then I took and I put the same person, and I had to go find somebody that had a sales tax that would be total equal to what Beatrice would be looking to go to, the 7.5. Okay, and Cameron, Clinton, Missouri was at 7.48. That was the closest one I could really find.
How long did you have to look for that number?
How long? Not very long. If you Google sales tax numbers, you can find a list by state, and you can do it pretty quickly.
Where were we on the scale?
There are some that are as low as 0. There are some as high as 14% if you go to Tennessee or states that don't have income taxes. So they're all over the board. All I did was Google sales tax by state, and
I will tell you that the real estate tax is a lot lower in Missouri than it is here.
Sure.
Probably 40%.
Right.
On average, at least.
but I tried to find someone. If I typed in Alma's total rate came in at 7.38. For some reason, IRS didn't have them at 7.5. I don't know why, but I didn't want to use their number because I didn't figure it would be quite accurate. And so I found this one, which is 7.48. The total amount of sales tax that this person would pay between Beatrice today and what Beatrice would be in the future was $94 in a year.
But it's a perception,
I don't disagree with you.
Okay, if you're the second town in the state of Nebraska to go to 7.5%, there's gonna be some negative feedback, or even
A
more.
lot.
Well,
There absolutely is.
It's gonna be like talking about the weather.
Yep.
It's just gonna be,
well, especially if you are, realistically, as an auto retailer, our big ticket items are controlled by the state where you pay sales taxes.
Correct.
But our accessories, which add up to thousands and thousands of dollars on a vehicle, electronics and furniture, office furniture, they can drive 35 minutes north of here and save hundreds of dollars in Lincoln by buying them there and paying less in sales tax, and we've got a downtown that's half empty,
Okay.
and we're raising sales tax.
Let's talk about these items.
40% of our business out of Lincoln and the
Okay.
surrounding area.
So I looked in the paper the other day. Now, this will add 50 cents to every $100 of taxable spending you have. That's what it comes out to be. I understand the
It's a
perception.
perception thing.
Okay? So I looked in the paper the other day, all right? And
You
saw,
knew I was gonna be here.
I knew you were going to be here.
He's pulling out my head.
The washer and dryer you have in here, $499. This tax would
That's
increase.
Each.
It's fine print.
This is my choice, so. This tax would increase the cost by $2.50. Right? I understand the perception. You know, on your sofa, your $688 sofa, it's $3.44. So I went and looked in Lincoln to see if I could find comparable units and how the price broke down. You have your washer and dryer for $499. I found, I think, the same one at a store in Lincoln that will remain nameless. It was $50 more in Lincoln. After I added in their sales tax and our sales tax, Beatrice final price $536. Lincoln $587.
They didn't charge for delivery, he does.
Yeah, well, that could be,
Well, and that's, I don't know about delivery.
yeah, that's generally not the case. The Furniture Mart, the lumber yards, the Menards are huge
That's
competition.
one item.
And now we throw in the internet on top of it for smaller items. The internet, Amazon is getting into the furniture in a huge way, and mattresses and stuff. It's not just small items anymore.
Right.
They're building like 36 mega warehouses around the country to deliver a major item. They're getting into groceries.
Mhm.
You know, this is, you're looking at, if they go by 60 Minutes a couple weeks ago, they're gonna start delivering by drones.
That'd be different.
No, that's 2015, that's when they plan on start, they've got them already, little drones that they got.
Yeah, they're waiting for
Packages.
FAA approval.
That's
All
what
they
they
can
try,
try.
yeah, a little 22-inch flat screen that'll reach your house in 30 minutes.
Bias, you talked about you came with 7 different options for the council.
Yes.
Did they ever look at, can we take maybe a little bit here, a little bit there versus all from one area?
We did look at that one. One of the options that I proposed was mix and match. Increase sales tax a little bit, increase property tax a little bit, or
Did wheel
a wheel tax at $20 and they didn't like that idea. Again, because of some of the issues we talked about, they didn't like wheel tax from the get-go. They didn't like some of the other issues. And so that one never gained a lot of traction. The other option I did propose was bonds. Let's go out and issue bonds, do the work. The problem with issuing bonds, they won't repay it. I don't have any money to pay them. So issuing bonds wasn't going to do us any good except put me farther behind next year when I try to do my budget and I got to make a bond payment.
Works for the federal government.
Yeah.
I understand, I don't have a printing press though. If you can get me one of those, we can fix this a lot easier. So those are the options we threw out there. Those were the 7. All right, wheel tax, sales tax, property tax, do nothing, bonds, mix and match, and wait for the state funding.
I'm sorry, what was the first place, I'm gonna kind of go back here, what was your first area of revenue? I got the sales tax and state.
Gas tax.
Gas tax, sorry.
State highway allocation or was gas tax.
So is gas tax lower today than it was 10 years ago?
It fluctuates year to year. This year we're up.
Okay.
The last couple of years we were down.
Okay.
But it fluctuates year to year.
Because we see traffic like crazy anymore. Especially through Beatrice.
Right.
So,
But
and
this
our
year it's
gas
up.
tax is one of the highest in the nation.
Yes.
Okay.
So we don't have a lot of really control of that.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
So again, I'd ask you, what would you do? What ideas do you have to address this issue? Do we just ignore it?
So what does it cost to put this to vote?
What's it cost to put the vote?
What does it cost to put it to vote?
It won't cost us much. Our cost in it will be when the county prints their ballots, whatever, we get charged based upon the area that we take up on the ballot. So we pay a portion of whatever the cost is. It won't be a whole huge amount, no.
If income tax is such an issue, and this is all going towards roads, why are we not doing a wheel tax instead? I know it's a lot more work, but if that's what it's going for, then that's what it should be. You should do something that is more in the lines of why we need the tax in the first place.
And the only thing I can tell you is that when the council looked at it in November, they didn't like the wheel tax idea. For the reasons
Why?
I've stated.
Oh, what, just, it's not because of how much work it is?
No, because they don't, it's my work, and I don't care. I'm on salary, they tell me that all the time, so.
And let's be